So I basically just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what we do at Rifle Paper Company and how we got started and what I do specifically. So if you're unfamiliar with us, we are a stationery and design brand. We sell products. Mainly stationery products, so we manufacture journals, cards, calendars, things like that, and the primary way that we sell them is through wholesale accounts. We do have an online store and we have a local store in Winter Park, but the biggest part of our business is selling to other retail channels. So these are some pictures of our studio in Winter Park, and usually it does not look that clean. I put them on the slides last night, and my husband Nathan, who owns a business with me, was like shocked that the studio ever looked like that. So it normally kind of looks like this. This is some of the production going on in our studio. We have about 20 full-time employees right now. It started out just Nathan and I, and we have 20 full-time and about 40 part-timers, and this is an example of part-time production that goes on. We manufacture pretty much everything right here in Florida, locally, and then we bring it to our studio to box up and quality control and get it all ready to ship out. And this is a little slide of some of our products, some of our newest stuff. So we have notepads, calendars, all that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to expand a little bit more into the gifts market and go beyond paper goods. How we get started, which is a question I sometimes ask myself. I thought I would start back with myself and getting to Florida, which was in 2006 when I worked with Chris. I came here right out of school to work at Relevant magazine. I'm not sure why they hired me right out of school because I really didn't know what I was doing, but they brought me on as an art director for a women's magazine that they were starting up, and I worked there for a little over a year, and it really taught me how to not only design and print, but work within really crazy deadlines and work in a very fast-paced environment, and really start to edit myself and sort of art direct myself. And it taught me how to work really hard, because I think one of the first weeks there, I remember my boss asking me if I could design a book cover within a matter of hours. And I was like, I don't understand. In college, they gave me like a month. So things like that really taught me that how to work at a fast pace and know when to just like get things done and not completely worry about whether it was the greatest thing I'd ever done, and knowing that balance. So I was there for about a year, and then I left to focus on freelance illustration. I love design, but I'd kind of miss just doing straight illustration work. So I went out on my own, and for about 2 years, I really started to experiment with my style and try to find my voice. And these are some examples of what I did during that time. My husband Nathan was in a band at the time, so I did a lot of free and $10 show posters for places like Back Booth, which I thought was awesome at the time. As long as I paid my rent, I was perfectly happy. So there's a lot of things in there that kind of show me trying to experiment. There's some paper cut stuff and watercolor and digital illustrations. In doing all those posters, like I felt like each one was sort of an experiment in itself to figure out what I wanted to do. So that went on for a couple of years, and then a few friends asked me to design their wedding invitations, and it just kind of clicked that stationery was what I absolutely loved. I'd always liked cards growing up, but I never really thought about it as something I wanted to focus on. But to me, it was like, immediately saw that it was a perfect mix of illustration and design and product that I was looking for. And I designed, the one on the left is my own wedding invitation. That was the first time I started illustrating little couples and scenes that kind of ended up taking off. So during this whole time of working at Relevant and working freelance, I was posting work on Flickr when it was really popular. And I posted a bunch of these posters, but then when I posted the wedding invitations, that was when they really started taking off, and blogs, just without me doing anything, were noticing them and posting about them, and I realized that that's what people were resonating with. Not only did I love it, but I kind of saw that I had hit something kind of special. So I started to focus on that, and the more people posted about it, the more people started emailing, and all of a sudden I got to a point where I was getting about 50 or 60 requests a week about custom wedding invitations. So Nathan stepped in, my husband, to help me handle that, because I was about to just curl up in a ball and ignore all those people and completely ruin the opportunity. So we started to figure out how to make it work, dealing with clients. I really had no idea how to print anything. Nathan and I were working in our apartment at the time, and our dining room table became our print station, and we just kind of went from there. And about 6 months later is when we launched Rifle Paper Company with a full line of stationery. And it's kind of like a quick jump, but really that's how it was. Like, we really didn't think about it. I think at the time I was just like, oh, I would like to start a stationery company. I'll make some cards and just put them on the internet, and something will happen, hopefully. And we really did approach it with that, like, completely naive attitude. I didn't know anything about the industry. We really had no idea what we were doing. I hired some random web company who, it's still the same website today. And we really just designed this, or I designed this collection. We had them printed. I think the weekend before we launched, I photographed everything. And we just sort of put it online and had somebody announce it, and the orders started coming in. And at that point, we realized that we didn't know what we were doing, because we didn't know how to properly ship things. The day we got all of our cards back, they were printed wrong, and for some reason we decided it was a good idea to get our cards back the day we launched. So we ended up with over 200 orders and no product. So basically, almost everything that could go wrong did. And it took us, I think, 2 or 3 weeks to get our first order out, because we had to reprint everything twice with a local printer. And we just had one person cancel their order. It was a little bit crazy. Because Nathan emailed every single person, told them the situation, asked them, to be patient with us, that we were new, that we didn't know what we were doing, so please be patient for your holiday orders. So it was during that time we really just started to figure everything out, what it really meant to run a business. And I kind of feel now, looking back 3 years later, that really nobody knows what to do. And Google was our best friend at that point. We were, you know, it was like, how do you ship internationally? Google. Where do you print cards? Google. So we really just put our heads down and figured out every problem that came up. And we worked extremely hard to do it. I think we both had extreme meltdowns at the time, alternating, which was great, because we could both like pick each other up the following day. And really that, it taught us, one, that most people don't know what they're doing, and that you kind of, I really truly feel that most people are just faking it till they make it, and that's totally fine. We really just, as we went, tried to figure things out, tried to be as professional as possible, only send out products that we were happy with. Really just, we had our standards that we wanted to keep, and we really stuck to them, and we did whatever it took to make it happen. And I think that first year and a half, we probably worked probably 7 days a week, over 15 hours a day to get the business started. I really probably lost most friends that year, and really all we did was just sleep, go to work, solve problems, figure it out. And it didn't really seem crazy at the time because we loved it and we were passionate about it. We really wanted to make it work. And like I said, we launched 3 years ago this month. And we hired our first employee. We launched in November. We hired our first employee in February. And from there, we've just slowly grown and built up more people and figured out how to make things work. These are some of the first products that we launched with from November to May, and May is when the big trade show for stationery is, so at that point we started wholesaling to other companies. The trade shows are kind of where bigger companies will go to find new products, pick it up, so I guess that was like 2.5 years ago, and now we're carried in I think over 3,000 stores around the world, in over 20 countries. And it's just kind of exploded a little bit unexpectedly. And this is a picture. This is our first office on Fairbanks Avenue, and our first orders that were piled up as we did not know what to do. I think that was the point where we were like, oh, shipping labels, that works. And looking back, it was just like one little room, and that was the table Nathan's sitting at was our one little production table where we did everything, and his mom would come help us box things up. So looking back, I mean, we kind of jumped into the success, and looking back and thinking about the reasons why our brand and these products really resonated with people, there are a few reasons that I came up with. I think that we launched with, the designs are all full color painted by hand. They're all printed full color. And at the time, most of the boutique stationery companies were all letterpress printed. And that was really the big trend of the time, and it had been for a few years, which I wasn't really even consciously thinking about. I was just trying to do something that fit my style. But it really, a lot of people have told us now that it was really a breath of fresh air to see something that had the same level of quality and craftsmanship to it as those lines, but it was completely different. So I think we had something, just a look that was unique. We also did not know when we launched, but we launched at the lowest point of the stationery industry. It was like the crash of everything. The economy was low. We've heard that about 30% of stores in the US that carried stationery closed right before we launched. And not knowing anything about the industry, we had no clue, but it really helped us see that if we could grow in that kind of economy at that point, that we really had something great, and that we could only really go up from there once the economy got better. We also never said no to an opportunity, which has really helped us grow big steps at a time. One of Nathan's biggest things is to never say that we're not ready, which puts us in some tricky situations. But for example, Anthropologie was one of the first stores that contacted us, and we weren't really prepared for it. But if someone like that emails you, you kind of feel like you have one shot. So when they're asking for thousands of cards within a few weeks, you just say, yes, we can do that for you, and you figure out how to make it happen. And that's happened more times than we can count. Someone will bring something up to us, and we'll have no idea how to do it, but we'll say that we can figure it out. We're not trying to make them feel like, we're trying to pull one over on them, but really just putting our heads down and figuring it out like we did from the beginning of how to come up with a solution. We've hired additional space before. We've had to hire on seasonal people to get big projects out. Putting in more hours than we normally do to get a project done really quickly for someone if they're in a tight deadline. I think that's probably one of the biggest reasons that we've grown so fast. And one of the biggest pieces of advice that we received from the beginning was to always be flexible. And we've had that mindset all along that it's not just about, we really don't have a long-term plan. And I think that's almost a good thing. We just kind of take things as they come. I have like a vision for where I think I want things to go, but not knowing for sure kind of allows us to kind of go with the flow of what's happening, how people are responding, and change things as we need to, and not really feel like we're stuck on a certain path. And last thing I think that has been really great for us is having the high standards that we do. I mentioned the production team, and this is a picture of us going to a press check and calendars getting printed. This is pretty recently when we started printing a lot more. But every single product is checked by hand. This letterpress company, it's so beautiful. Letterpress is so beautiful, and that's just not what we do. It's not as we're not doing as high end of a printing process, so we have to find that quality in other ways by the paper that we use, making sure the color is great, making sure that we're never sending anything out that's up to our standards. So we've really made sure that we have a good reputation for the product that we deliver to people, and are just run ourselves as a professional business. It's how we interact with everybody. So lastly, I wanted to talk about what I do specifically. I mentioned that I work with my husband, Nathan. He basically runs the business side of things, and I help run the creative side of stuff. So my biggest task is designing and illustrating all the products. I do have a team of designers under me. Right now we have 3. And they do things like lay out custom stationery orders, help lay out our catalog, do visual displays for our storefront, things like that. But as far as the products themselves go, right now I'm still doing all of that, which is really the most important part of my job. But as I was thinking about it, I really probably only spend about 10% of my time, if that, actually painting or designing. Most of my time is spent managing what people are doing, answering questions, emails. I was thinking last night about just being a creative business owner and what that means, and whether you're freelance or have something like this, it really, for most of you have probably seen that so much of that business aspect is involved with what you do. And I really do like that. I wish I was designing products a little bit more, but one of the reasons that I have been excited about having this company is because I do get to have a hand in the business aspect. I like to plan out marketing ideas, and I still handle all the social media, and Nathan and I still meet about big picture decisions, and that's really fun to me because it allows me to control how my designs are used, and I love having that big picture view of everything that's going on. I think one of the things that was hard for me as a freelancer was that I was just painting this illustration and passing it off, and somebody else got to decide how it was presented, and I really, really enjoyed being part of the process from the idea stage to deciding what color it's going to be, what color packaging is, how it's going to look on the shelf, how people are going to perceive it. It's definitely very interesting to me, and it adds a whole new dynamic. This is just a little picture of some ideas. I spend a lot of time thinking about new collection ideas. We have 3 trade shows a year, and those are the times that we launch new products, and I try to view it as I take a little bit of cue from the fashion industry, even though it sounds kind of weird, but I like to think of the launches as a collection, and that they all need to work together, and every time I design a new product, it needs to not only work with the new stuff, but work with the whole line. And at this point, as the line has grown, it's really interesting to feel like it's not just about me anymore, it really is about what the line has become. And even if I want to design something crazy, I know that I can't sometimes. Like if it doesn't fit Rifle, I really can't do it. Even though Rifle is just me designing it, it's become its own entity. So a big part of it is making sure everything balances out, making sure we have the right number of cards, the right number of journals, the kind of products that people are going to be interested in, and making sure that we can sell them at the right price points and get them manufactured. There's a lot of decisions that go into everything that we end up launching. This is just a quick view of ideas on the left and then the actual printed project on the right. Which is something, I love thinking about all the printing processes. Like I said, I feel like how to get things made is probably the biggest struggle that we have as a company. I have ideas. At this point, we have the means to develop new product, but finding a person to manufacture it is like one of the hardest things I've ever encountered. It's just like there's no websites for these people. It's like finding someone who knows somebody, and even if you do find somebody, they may not be able to work within the margins that we need to sell it at. And right now we're still manufacturing everything in the US, so when we were trying to get journals made, it's trying to find that price point that works in the market with all these things are getting manufactured overseas, and a lot of that affects the design of it too. I'll have to, maybe doing the interior pages as one color instead of 2 will make all the difference. So it's really a back and forth during that process between myself and Nathan and whoever is kind of overseeing the production aspect to make sure everything's working together and we both end up happy. So that's really the gist of what I do. I still work a lot. I still work probably 6 days a week, over 12 hours a day to get the stuff done. And as we grow and add more people, I'm trying to take things off my plate, but I love what I do. I love that we have a great community in Orlando. I grew up just outside of New York and New Jersey, and sometimes, being here, you kind of feel like you're missing out on all the activity going on up there. We're up there so often for meetings and trade shows, and one of the things I've really appreciated about having this business in Orlando is that we've had our own little bubble to work in, and it kind of allows me to just push everything out, put my head down, work hard, and then we can take everything up there, and all the people in New York can be jealous of how much we pay for rent for our office and how big it is, and I feel a little bit better. But really, it's a great community. Our studio is right in front of Maker, which they're also a product company, and there's some really amazing things happening here, and it's been really fun to watch other people grow as we have, and really lean on people in the community for advice as they've grown their business, which has been awesome. So, I guess that's about it.
On the workflow, do you draw these, you paint it by hands, and then when your other designers recreates it digitally, and then you hand it off? Is that how it works?
I mainly paint with gouache, and I scan it myself and usually color tweak it and whatever I need to do. The designers will help prep it for print production, so there's a lot of cleaning up that the illustrations need before they're actually sent off to be offset printed. But for the most part, I do everything up until like color correction for print, and everything's hand painted, but I really do rely on Photoshop and the computer to edit colors and make sure that everything's working together. So.
How many people working for you?
We have over 20 full-time and 40 part-time.
What's the structure of who you have and what you do?
So out of those 20, we basically have 4 departments. There's creative team, which was myself, 3 designers, and we have 2 project managers. One is for internal projects, and the other is for client work. We have an accounts team, and they manage all of our wholesale accounts and deal with stores that buy from us. We have our production team who boxes everything up and gets everything ready to ship. And then we have our shipping and fulfillment team who package everything, does a lot of big freight orders that we ship overseas, so there's a lot of preparation. Every big retailer has their own set of standards that you have to package everything up with, so there's a lot of detail involved with just how to get things shipped out and dealing with customs and all that kind of fun stuff. So.
What are some of the challenges you face as a husband and wife working together all the time?
Yeah, we are together all the time. Well, it's funny because we started working together right after we got married, and even before we got married, I was doing show posters for him, and we kind of always had a somewhat of a working relationship. It can be on the best side of things. I have like a business partner that I completely trust and is always there, and I know has my back. On the other side of things, like it's pretty much all we talk about at home. And you know, because we're so honest with each other, it allows for like, you know, there's heated moments, there's stressful times, sure, but I think in the end, it's definitely worth it. We balance each other out really well. He's really good at all the business aspects, making sure that our profit margin is correct and all that kind of stuff, and is really good at seeing the, just making sure that we're running our business the best way that we can. And my job is to make sure that we're not focusing on that stuff too much, and that we're doing the projects that we should be doing to kind of drive the brand in a direction that I think we should go.
Even though you're a creative company, you do make a product. How do you keep yourself and your team fresh, creatively inspired, and not accidentally resort to being an assembly line for these large orders?
So I asked a question about staying fresh as a product line. I think now we're in our 3rd year. We just had 3 years, so I'm at a point now where I'm transitioning into, for the first couple of years, it was just coming up with any idea and filling in the line and making it as kind of big and robust as I wanted it. And now I'm at a point where I'm trying to replace products that are getting a little tired and come up with new products that we don't have yet that will kind of take us a little further. So for me, it's both updating the designs I don't think are really working anymore, or, you know, maybe they were really great sellers our first year and we've seen them kind of taper down. And then I think me personally, I always say to our team that I get sick of our cards first before anyone else, because I've been looking at them the longest. So I'm always trying to update things and make things new. I'm always the first person who wants to kick like 10 cards out of the line that I just don't think visually are working anymore. So for me, that's always something I'm thinking about, that I always want to make sure, because that's something I noticed when we launched. There were a lot of stationery companies who just sort of let their cards go for years and years, and eventually people get tired of them. So it's always been a priority to me to make sure that I'm updating things as much as possible to make sure that everything's really fresh and new.
Do some of those wholesalers try to push you to keep some cards that you want to get rid of?
Yes, we have wholesalers, like they get pretty upset when you take things away from them. And I get pressure on that end that people don't want to get rid of things that are selling well, which I understand. There's also pressure from the big retailers and the distributors for me to design products that they want and on their deadlines. So the first couple of years I was just kind of doing things as I felt like doing them, and now I'm at a point where we have a distributor in Australia, and their deadline for all of holiday 2013 is in January, and if I don't make that deadline, they won't have holiday for us to sell in Australia, and then therefore we don't get all the sales.
Yeah.
So now there's a lot of that kind of pressure on me, which is a little bit hard to deal with, but at the same time, I like deadlines, and I kind of like having that structure a little bit. It's definitely a good and bad side to it. But.
Where are you getting the ideas for the new cards? Like, why do that cities collection? What's there?
It's sort of a combination of what I try to think about what I like, because it is coming from me, and you know, what I think is really fun. I do think about what I think will sell well too, because I just think it's just the nature of what we do, that we're a product and most consumers. And it's a good mix of that. I think sometimes I'm thinking more about what will sell, sometimes I'm thinking more about what I would like, and then sometimes it surprises me in certain situations what ends up being the best seller, like maybe something I didn't expect. So I'm always trying to have a good balance of what I want, what's selling. Our accounts team tries to track what's doing well and what's not, to come back and tell me, and then I can kind of look at it and see why and think about what I can do differently.
Can you describe, I guess, at first, whether you had a target sort of audience, but also who your card buyer is?
Well, our card buyer is a variety of people. We've actually been able to span a good spectrum of customers. Like I said, Anthropology is one of our biggest and best accounts, and they've picked us up right from the beginning. And I think that store is obviously like a really great venue for our look. But at the same time, we do well. I'm always kind of surprised, like, grandmothers will email like so excited about our product, and we'll get another email from somebody who's like has this amazing hip store in Brooklyn, and they're really excited, and that to me is like really rewarding to see this wide variety of people who respond to the cards. And some of my favorite stores are the ones, like we're in a couple men's shops in some cool cities, and that's always really shocking to me. Like, I'm glad that you like my cards. They're not really that manly, but I appreciate it. So I think that's definitely the biggest goal. I do have like a target person in mind when I create them. It's definitely become like a certain type of thing, but the more it can appeal to a variety of people, the better, for sure.
How did you
The name. I don't really have a great story. I was actually with Sean, who's sitting back there, and I was trying to come up with a name when I was freelancing, and we were looking through a stock book, and there were rifles on the page. And I was like, well, that sounds fun. At the time, I really liked just like short words, didn't have anything to do with what I was doing. And kind of like launching, I didn't like really sit down and think about it for a very long time. And I think it works, definitely sticks with people. A lot of people think it's pronounced riffle, which I think is really interesting. We've had people call our Winter Park studio asking if we sell guns. That's also interesting. But yeah, for the most part, I'm happy that it sticks with people. I think that's the most important thing at this point. So.
What about the puppy?
The puppy. Again, not totally thought out. It was like, I think it was the weekend before we launched. It was a lot of quick decisions like, yes, that font looks fine. This dog will work. So, it is what it is. I've kind of updated it to hold a letter in its mouth and be running, and I'm updating our logo again. I think the dog can kind of come and go. I don't think it's something that has to be totally attached to the brand, but I can't say that it was, there's a really deep meaning.
Maybe the dog.
You talk about editing yourself. What's your mantra when you do that?
Editing myself. I think stepping back and figuring out if I really am happy with it. Sometimes I'll show Nathan, who's not a designer, and his reaction will help me know how I feel. Sometimes I'll show him things and he's like, I don't know, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know either. And I know I kind of have work to do, and there's been a couple cards where I'm like, no, this is going to be really great, and he's like, I just don't understand why anyone would buy that card. This is so weird. And I'm like, and I know that I want to fight for it, and I don't bring a lot of people into that process. I think that for me, a lot of times I create a lot of new stuff at once, so sometimes it's just a matter of looking at it and putting it with the stuff we already have and seeing if it's working and making sure there's a good balance of colors going on and occasions and things like that. So I guess I probably haven't totally thought about them, but I think I probably have a set of internal guidelines I probably give myself. And there's definitely been cards that we've made that have been failures. It's just been funny. And I've kind of learned from those. So you definitely don't always know. Sometimes you think something's great and it just is not. So.
Yeah, you said one of your biggest problems is finding like a printers that can do what you want to do. Like, who are some of the people you're working with?
I don't know that I can tell you.
Oh, secrets. Okay.
We work with great vendors. I will say though, the people that we do work with, we have a really great relationship with. And I think it's important to really get to know. So much of design involves printers, and I think they know what they're doing. You know what you want. There's a lot of communication barrier in there, and I think for us, we have a rep at the printer we mainly use, and she really gets us, and she gets what we want, and she can kind of speak our language and then speak production language to make sure that we're getting what we need. Because when I said we printed our cards twice before they actually came out decently the first time, we really didn't know what we were trying to do. They ran all of our cards through the wrong kind of folding machine. So they all came out curled and cracked. And we had no idea that there was even such a thing as a folding machine, and there were different types of folding machines, and that this type of folding machine would not work, things like that. So there's a lot of knowledge we've gained from the mistakes we've made, and at this point, Nathan has really almost become a production and printing expert in paper and stuff like that, so that we can kind of push back and know what we want and know what to ask for, generally what kind of prices we should be getting, things like that. So
Do you get a lot of errors now since you, do you get a lot of quality errors now, or is it?
there's still, it's production, so there's always going to be mistakes. It just happens and we deal with it. So, for the most part, we try to work with really great people, but they know that they have learned that we have very high standards. And we appreciate the ones that have stuck around with us because, we'll reject stuff that isn't good enough. And like I said, people go through every single thing, so if there's sometimes things just happen, it's not their fault. If they're saying spot on something, it's not something they did wrong, it's just something that we're not going to sell, so.
How often do you keep up with or ignore design and illustration trends?
I try to ignore design illustration trends as much as possible. I really have stopped going on blogs, and really I have a very love-hate, mostly hate relationship with Pinterest. Because I think it's important. I'm always trying to get new inspiration and look at things, but I think it's very easy to let it get in your head, and not only in a design way, but just seeing what other people are doing, and you can start to feel like you need to catch up, or things like that. So for the most part, I try to, like I said, the Orlando thing, I really like that I'm in my own little world. I love New York, but I just think the competition up there and everything that's going on, it would be an amazing drive for me, but it would also probably just be so overwhelming. I don't know how you would really block it out. So it's like that with design blogs and things like that. I really try to stay away from it as much as possible so that I know for sure that everything I'm doing is coming from me and is original and something I can be proud of. So.
Well, we have time for one more.
What advice would you give to your younger self?
My younger self. Probably to have the confidence to know that I can do what I want to do. I think taking risks is really important. I think during the time when I was trying to figure things out, I also wasn't really ready, but I think, I hear from a lot of people, and I know that I felt the same way, that, taking that step to do your own thing is really hard. And, there's a lot of fear in that. And I think just kind of putting yourself out there, which we ended up doing, it was really the best thing. We did not know what we were doing. We really made so many mistakes, but because we just kind of did it and dealt with it afterwards, it was fine. As long as it didn't overwhelm us and completely knock us down, we just kind of made it work. So I think that's really important. I would tell myself before that mistakes are definitely okay. You learn from them, and you should not do something because you're afraid it's not going to work.